Hey there, this is Alex Allen with 239 Caffeinated. I'm super excited to welcome you all to our first official podcast. We are joined today by my partners and our special guest, Taylor. So, for those of you that have not heard of 239, we are a technology focused organization down here in sunny Southwest Florida. And we are extremely passionate about growing tech, connecting tech, and learning about best practices that are happening here in Southwest Florida and across the world. So, in growing this network, we've had the opportunity to meet some stunning individuals with great personalities, and we're taking this opportunity to share some of those personalities with you all. So, first, I'd like to introduce my partner, friend, mentor, and most attractive looking guy that I know, Mr. Brian Samelson. We've had the pleasure to work together for something like 16 years. I look like I must have just started right out of the womb.
Whoa,
Holy moly.
looking good.
Brian's got a fresh haircut. So very excited to have Brian on with us. I know he's a big consumer of podcasts, so I'm sure he's going to have some very pointed and stressful questions for our guests here. Brian, welcome.
Thanks, Alex. See, this time I got your name right. We've known each other so long.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Anything you would like to add, sir?
No, just glad to be here. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, and then we're gonna try to bring Aaron, our additional partner, in one more time. Aaron, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Oh wow.
All right,
Terrific.
just on time. So,
Wow.
introducing Aaron Stafford into the mix here. So, Aaron is a partner with 239. Haven't had quite as long a relationship with Aaron, and therefore do not have quite as many embarrassing stories to tell about our interactions. But Aaron is a key component to 239. He is the master networker. He has an extremely strong network of technology professionals and investors. And the unfortunate fact that I must share with you is Aaron is also a New England Patriots fan. Boo.
I am.
So, um, could be worse. You could be an Eagles fan. Sorry,
Oof.
Brian. But so, Aaron, thank you for joining us. Anything to add to your short intro there?
No, I'm staying caffeinated. I have some coffee here in hand. My wife is very unique in that she made her own milk out of almonds. So I am having homemade coffee.
Wait,
Don't.
hold on.
This is the first segment that needs to be edited out. Aaron talked about his wife producing her own milk into his coffee.
So is she? You said she's produced her own almond milk. So is she actually milking the almonds out in the kitchen? What's going on there?
She's milking the almonds in the kitchen with a some sort of machine that she got for Christmas. I did not give it to her.
Okay, all right. I'm super interested now.
That
But
is-
but we must move on. You're not going to deter us just quite yet.
Is she working today? Is she working today?
She is working. She is
Okay.
working. She's
Well,
in the office behind me.
okay.
All right. So I think one thing that I didn't mention in the intro that's important before we get to Jeff and Taylor, this isn't, try to keep it as clean as possible, but this is a judgment-free zone. So you guys can just, whatever you're comfortable putting out there, we're definitely comfortable consuming and sharing with the world. So, you know, just keep that in mind as we dig in here. But so Dave, Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourselves? Obviously, we have a little bit of a past. So Jeff and Dave participated in 239 Labs, our tech accelerator. First cohort just wrapped up in December. We're recording this mid-January. So we spent 3 months working closely together, seeing each other on a regular basis. And that's really where we built out our relationship and got to know each other a little bit closer. Jeff, thank you for repping the T-shirt. We appreciate that.
It's my favorite tea.
There you go. All right. So who wants to kick it off for us, Steve or Jeff?
I'll go first, and then you go, and then I'll give the 30-minute, as you like to call it, Alex, elevator intro. So my name is Dave Damaris. I am the CEO and co-founder here at Tailored. Super excited to be here, part of this first episode of Caffeinated with the 239 group. We did one of these a little bit ago, man, and it was super fun. So I like doing this kind of stuff. So appreciate you guys having us. But yeah, we started Tailored back in 2017 and been at it ever since. So here we are.
Yes, I'm Jeff Collins. I'm the COO/CMO, I think. Wear hats as many do in startup companies. Excited to be here. Maybe less excited than the rest because I'd like to say a few things, but we'll see how it goes.
We'll see if we can't get some great sound bites out of you.
We'll crack.
There'll be a
Probably should have a couple glasses or something here, you know.
Well,
little early, buddy.
all right. Well,
let me
go
say about Tailored. So for those of you who don't know what we are, Tailored has created a patented artificial intelligence technology called Capture, and we call it Capture. And what we're doing is helping apparel retailers streamline the way they get product data online. I don't know if you guys have ever, I'm sure you've shopped for product online before. You've probably never considered how that information gets there. Let's say the pricing, the product description, the images, all that stuff. Most of it's manually done by people. And our technology is actually automating that through a couple simple photographs. So we're excited about it and it's starting to grow here. So yeah, it's good times in 2021.
Awesome. Great. So just to kick us off, I mean, we have a group of two different groups of partners here. So I know how I got to know Brian and Aaron, but interested in how you guys decided that you were going to be lifelong companions in this tailored endeavor. So how did you make that decision? Did you guys know each other before? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Jeff and I met each other in 2005. I was in college still, my senior year, I guess, dating myself now. He had just moved down from Buffalo. Good place to be from, I guess, if you like cold. But yes,
If you like winning football teams, also all of a sudden.
I'm with Aaron, man, on the still supporting the Patriots. I don't care.
There we go.
So yeah, so we each had started working for a mortgage company, and that was kind of right. Anybody who's been in this area around that time knew that this market was hot. You know, the houses were selling like crazy. So actually, a company that he knew of from that area, M&T Bank, had opened a fresh office here in Naples, and we happened to be two of the first employees there. And we were out there doing mortgage business, and yeah, just one of the first interactions we had was we had to go up to Tampa for this training because we didn't know anything about mortgages. So on the way back, you know, we had gotten a little acquainted during the thing, but on the way back, I got a flat tire on the highway. And funny enough, we each had the same car.
Very convenient.
Yeah. So, you know, I had happened to have his phone number through the thing, and he flies by me, sees me pull over, and where I got the flat tire was on a bridge. And that's never a good place to get a flat tire. So I had never really stood on a highway bridge before that moment, but it's terrifying because bridges, I mean, they're not fixed structures, they move. So every time a car or a semi would drive over, I'm sitting there shaking to death, and I got this flat tire. The tire that was flat was the one facing the street, not on the other side. So this nice guy came back, picked me up, dropped me back off at home, was able to meet my then girlfriend, now wife, for the first time. So from there, yeah, that's how the relationship kind of grew. But that's really.
So he picked you up
Mm-hmm.
and he brought you home.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever go back for the car?
Yeah, I don't think he wasn't a part of that though. So my wife, my girlfriend, brought me back, and she kind of stood guard, like looking back into traffic while I got all the gear out of the car to do the quick tire change, like as fast as I could, because I didn't want to get killed by anybody. So, she would just, hey man, there's something coming, a semi, and I had to run on the other side, and not fall off the bridge and not get killed by cars. So it was stressful, but yeah,
Okay.
the car was safe.
So Jeff, you let him go with his wife to change the tire rather than helping him in the moment.
Absolutely.
You have a fear of bridges or something along those lines?
Neither. They just happened to do it when I wasn't around. So
I don't even think it was the same day.
It wasn't.
I think I went back the next day. I was like two, yeah.
I offered.
If it's there, it's there. If it's
Yeah.
not,
That's all.
it's time to move on.
Yeah, what are you gonna do with a car with a flat tire, man? You're not stealing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what you'll come to realize about us. Like, I'm the one end of the spectrum where, like, I don't think anything bad's ever gonna happen, even though it does to me. And he's like the other end where, like, lock your doors, don't go out at night because a bear might attack you, kind of thing.
That's an example.
So that's 2005. Tailored is 2017, right? So we've got about 12 years in between. So what are the first conversations? How does that evolve from the flat tire and the mortgage company? When do the conversations start to happen? And I guess, was Tailored the first endeavor outside of like working together with the mortgage company that you did together? Was that the first joint venture working together, as entrepreneurs?
Well, we remained friends throughout that entire time, and it's actually not the first thing we did. We also had this idea to create a ring made of silicone at one point.
A wedding ring.
Before that it had kind of hit. Alex actually has one on, like I think it's Kalo ring, and a couple other ones that are out there. So Dave actually had that idea as well, because he likes to fix things and thought there would be an opportunity there to not have like a metal ring. You could have something that was more easy to cut off should your finger get caught in the vise, or a fireman or a police officer. So we did that, and we traveled around and tried to get different kinds of companies to design this thing for us, and they ended up giving us like the insides of like different machines that they built that were circles, and we tried to form this ring out of it. It never really happened. We lost a couple bucks, but that was our first kind of foray into the joint venture scenario together.
So
Yeah.
a ring, and now Tailored. So where in the background, I'm a little bit of a trend, like fashion, apparel, accessories. Like where's that coming from?
I think it was it was my wife who came up with the idea for the tech, and it was more so just because of where Jeff likes to say we're smaller people. My wife and I, so we're each under 5'5", athletic builds, so it's difficult to find well-fitting clothing. So she kind of came up with the idea for the tech, and Jeff was working in where you working? You're working in sales and marketing in the healthcare industry, and I had approached him with the idea, like, hey, I'm thinking about starting this, and he loved the idea. I pitched it to a lot of other people too, just to kind of get their feedback, and you never get that's a bad idea from many of your friends. They all just want to see do something. They don't care if you fail or not, but
You have different friends than I do. Definitely that's a bad idea.
I want some of those people around.
There's a couple I can introduce you to right now.
Oh, that's good. Hey, appreciate you guys being on. So that was early. 2015, 16. I was still working, and I decided to leave what I was doing and then finally dive in full time once I kind of had enough feedback from folks and just was tired of working kind of the rat race. Dabbling in other things, and my wife and I have always kind of had that ambition, to be business owners. So we decided I would be the one. I started the company, and then in early, I started assembling the team, I guess, the people around us, because I'm not technical. Never worked in fashion either, so had to get a good group around us, and that's what I did initially, and brought him on in 2018. He threw in some bucks to kind of help us get started. My wife and I threw in some bucks, and yeah, we kind of hit the ground running there, just developing the tech and building relationships with retailers and brands and fashion folks.
I'm curious, how much money did you have to throw in personally to get this thing kicked off?
I think in the early days, I think my wife and I threw in about 150. Jeff threw in
Uh,
60.
60 and change so far.
We've always been good savers.
yeah,
Up
yeah.
until now, right?
Right.
You guys are all in.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all in, and it's something we truly believe in. We've never gotten a, hey, this is stupid from people in the industry, which is now more important. They're pushing us to keep going with this and get it built, because automation is where it's at and where the future is. So yeah, I mean, the initial money that my wife and I put in was more so R&D, because we knew nothing about tech. There wasn't a tech out there like this that could scan a garment, measure it, pull out a bunch of other data from a photo yet. So that was where a bunch of that went, unfortunately, or fortunately, because it's enabled us to get to where we are now. So, like I said, when Jeff came on, and then I had a family member throw in some money, we were able to kind of really put that towards the business itself, and obviously continue the technology as well, because that can always be improved. But yeah, early starts.
So the ring company that failed. So, you always hear entrepreneurs talk about, failure maybe just as important, if not important, than the success. So, what was one big kind of learning that you took out of that experience that you brought to Tailored?
It's a good question. I think I don't know. You had a soundboard over there, man. All these tricks.
I'm ready.
I think just not being scared to dive into something, because when we were pursuing the ring idea, we weren't full time in it. It was more of like, hey man, this would be cool. Because my impetus was I was always working out, and I didn't want to have a ring on my finger. Um, we made some trips to different warehouses and factories, and not warehouses, but manufacturing shops that could make this thing, and we just never dove in fully. I think we totally could have made it something if we would have put a lot more effort into it and really had a plan. But again, we were more in that kind of R&D phase, and we never got out of that phase really, because this idea the tailored capture idea kind of came along right at the tail end of it. So we almost dumped it for this one. But yeah, you can't be scared to take a shot, because you miss
So,
100% of the shots.
yes, I mean, one of the challenges is, you got to eat, right? You got to pay the bills. So, having gone through that, and when you look at fellow entrepreneurs, um, really in kind of the early stage, and they're kind of balancing that act between, well, this is my entrepreneurial dream, but I'm still working the job over here. Um, I'm assuming you get that, but am I kind of taking out of this that your advice or just your experience would be like, man, that's going to be tough to make that happen?
It is very tough. One of the takeaways that I have is the amount of money that you can start putting into something, and the rabbit hole you can kind of go down without having any proof that these things are going to work. So to jump ship is difficult, I think, from your regular day job to making zero salary to go take on something. So the ring thing, we spent a lot of money just trying to figure out how we would do it, and not even developing any rings. We had a couple, right? Prototypes. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but yeah, it's definitely hard to.
Well, and
hard to
like,
do that.
and you were more successful than me at that time. I mean, you were making six figures. I was close to that. I mean, we had these jobs that, we could always go back to. Like me, I was in sales and finance at a, Wells Fargo private bank. Like I could always go back and do that. I had all my investment licenses, my insurance licenses. I loved what I did, but I was like, you know what? If I don't take a shot at this, I'm never going to know. And I can always go get another one of those jobs. Jeff could always go back into the healthcare and hospitality and sales and marketing. So it's just one of those. That's always been my viewpoint. Is you can always get another one of those gigs.
Right. But it is, I mean, it kind of demonstrates the leap. I mean, the leap is not only the cash, right, that you're putting in, that you work so hard to accumulate, then it's also leaving that salary. And so, it's almost like when you're trying to, people talk about fire in the belly, right? Like, well, that's, you don't walk around with a fire in the belly score. Oh, he's a 7.3 on the fire in the belly chart. You just never know. But you're trying to figure out, well, what are the signs? Are you really committed to this? Or are you kind of committed to this? And so I think were probably, from the outside looking in, you go, that's a big leap. You're giving up, not only putting your money in, but then also, even though you have a feeling you can go back, but you're walking away from something, you're making six figures. It's a pretty big commitment.
The money part for me was the easier part. Writing the check to Dave and Christy, I always had a belief in them as people, no matter what the idea was. So I've always said this to Dave, I would have wrote the check no matter what. Quitting the job was another story, to not have that constant income and to just see your
Right.
bank account every month go lower and lower and lower, and to try to hang on. Those are the things that get a little dicey. And I mean, we've had millions of talks about these kinds of things, but that's the hardest thing to give that up. But I just believe I know this is going to work. I know we're going to get there from the interactions we've had with our customers and the work that we've put in and the effort. I just still believe we just can't miss because we're pushing so hard to that finish line. So
We've learned a lot as we've gone to, like, throughout, like, in the early days. Like, it was like, okay, we had the money in the bank, but I was, I'm come from, hey man, using leverage. And never forget, like, the first time we had like 20 something $1,000 on a credit card, that was being put towards the business. And that, just doing that, like saying, hey, we're going to pay for this expense with this credit card. And like the biggest balance that I ever had on a card before that was maybe a couple grand, and that scared the shit out of me. So having this huge, that was terrifying to me. But nice job on silence. It's Jeff's mom, just in case anybody's wondering.
she gets to break through when I have it on silence, just in case. My parents are getting a little old.
Do you want her on the podcast? Say hi to mom.
Put Karen on? No?
We don't want to do that.
But yeah, so I mean, as founders, you just learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You move forward.
Right. So, a funny thing about that, I think, is, and I think as time goes by, and as you guys, continue, is sometimes it's easy to forget that leap that you take, and you almost can think, well, everybody would do that. You don't really realize, like, no, not everybody would do that. But I'm wondering if we went back in the time machine even further. So you guys are graduating college, 2000, 2005, and in that time frame. If we went back to like 1990, or let's say when you were teenagers, even when you were children. I mean, your mom just called through. I mean, what will you look back at now and say, I never really thought about that, but that experience maybe helped shape me to be able to, be the type of person who can, have that faith in myself and my ideas and my ability to make something happen. There's things that jump out from, way back when, they say, yeah, that might have been the foundation of some of this.
I can go back, family experience. My father was a teacher when he was younger. He lost his job and then became a business owner. So he always kind of instilled that in us as kids, like that it's out there. There's opportunity out there for you if you wanted to start something. And he's never really pushed. He's always been okay with us doing whatever we really wanted to do. I was in a band at one point in my life, which is probably not his proudest moments. But he, ever since we were young, I just remember I was telling my mom this the other day about us. My neighbors would be outside playing basketball, and my dad would be making us like rake the leaves or mow the lawn or paint the house, or I just remember him always putting us to work and kind of instilling us like the hard work and that if you do that stuff, you're going to be able to do things. So that's my experience. Just my framework for at least knowing that it's out there and you can do it.
Well, you experienced the shift too, because like it was like went from like having like a teacher income, family to like the business income family when he was in grade school, then through high school and college. So I'm sure that, would you say, had something to do with it too?
Yeah, I had a little.
I think it was similar for me, just growing up in a single family household, like the struggle you see when you're young. I never really went without anything, but just once I got into the age where I could actually do things, early teens, work, make money, like I loved that feeling. And, in high school, I had an auto detailing business. I had this stupid name of the company was Platinum Plus. And I had this bright red Camaro, man, and I had the Platinum Plus put across the top of the windshield. So when I would roll up to school, like everybody knew, like that's what I was doing, or I would be working on the weekends, my other jobs. And I always had two or three jobs plus that business. And so I just really enjoyed that. So I knew that whatever I was going to do, I was going to push just to continue to be better and get to that next level.
That's funny. I actually sold T-shirts in college too. I had like a little T-shirt business as well. So I've done some weird things.
And what was your T-shirt business called? I hope it's just as good as Dave's.
It was called Set Up a Table in the Student Union and Come and Buy a T-shirt for me. It didn't have a name. There was no
T-shirt?
internet back then, so.
What were you selling, like Hanes undershirts or something, man?
Yeah, I sold those and like hemp necklaces because that was cool back then.
Very nice.
Alex
So
rocked with those.
What about the band? Let's just dive in on that just for a
Oh.
second.
Brian,
I should have never brought it up. This is something.
if you didn't, I was gonna. So it was gonna come out anyway.
Yeah, when I was young, I did this one talent show, and we did this Beastie Boys song for the talent show, and I was like hooked. I played the piano from when I was a kid. Took piano lessons my whole life, so I guess we've always been somewhat musical in my family. But when I went to college, I met these other guys who were just amazing musicians, and we started this band, and we did like a bunch of original songs. And we used to play in the bars in Ohio and frat parties, and then we all moved to Denver together as a band. We lived in this little house outside of Denver University campus, and we had a recording studio like in our basement. We played in bars and stuff there. It was pretty neat. Really cool experience. We won a contest one time and we got some recording studio time. So it was like kind of like an alternative rock band. It's pretty cool.
I've heard the tape, and yes, the word is tape,
I have a tape.
of their songs, and they were really good, man. But he keeps that under lock and key. Like,
So there's no video out there.
No, again,
YouTube search is not going to return.
I don't think so.
you gonna tell him what's the name of the band again?
It had so many names, but the last name it had was Daddy Watson.
Daddy Watson, was that?
Yeah, Daddy, like I'm your daddy. Who's your daddy?
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Okay.
a fun story about you though, man. You used to sometimes like throw up right before he would go on.
This is true.
The old Donovan McNabb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw up
No,
before- Yes, Joe.
Donovan threw up after he went on.
Or Donovan.
And that was from hangovers, not nerves. I read. But no, I was insanely nervous to go on. Like we would play in front of, at one point, I think we had a crowd of like 1,000 people at a show we did, and so I used to get super nervous. So I used to throw up before.
Did it all go away once you got on?
Yeah, it goes away
That's crazy.
after usually.
And was there an idea that maybe this was, a career in music was going to happen, or?
Yeah, at one point I think it was for all of us. We had half a cup of coffee with a record executive from Sony at one point. The issue was that the guys in the band, like one of our band members, had like a scholarship to attend Stanford graduate school. So one other guy got a really good position at another company. So not only were they good musicians, really smart guys. So it started to become, because I guess we had other options, like guys started to go to different places and do different things.
So, the question that Alex Alex always likes the conversation to go this way. So you're in a rock band. What about the hair?
What about
Was
the
the
what?
hair long?
What about the hair, dude?
Long
No.
hair? No. Okay.
That old picture of you,
No,
man.
it's unfortunate. The baldness for me started at an early age, so I kind of had to keep it short. I wore a lot of baseball hats and different headgear to do band stuff.
Speaking of baldness, Brian, what inspired your so for anybody that's listening, you can't see, Dave and I are quite bald, or sorry, Jeff and I are quite bald. Dave has a luscious head of hair covered by a hat. Aaron has the Rico Suave look going on, full head of hair, and then Brian has a full head of hair covered up with a hat and recently shaved off. Why? Why would you do such a thing? You have such a luscious, luxurious hat on top. Why make these?
Yeah. So it's pretty easy story. So for Christmas, I like the DIY, especially the COVID DIY. So for Christmas, I got. I mean, Heather. When I say DIY, it means tell my wife, you got to cut my hair. So for Christmas, she got me this. I can show it to you. It's right here. Hold on.
You got a picture?
And now the tour.
I'm going to give himself a haircut live on the podcast.
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to start with my podcast career. Maybe I'll get endorsements. So it's this thing from
Is that the
Con Air. Yeah. So it's for do DIY haircuts. I'm like, okay. So I was kind of aiming for. I don't know if anybody saw like the inaugural thing last night. I was kind of aiming for like what the Springsteen look that he's got going out. Really kind of shaved. I guess it's a fade basically, but it's shaved on the sides, but a little longer on top. So this thing, you can see, it's 1, 2, and 3. So first shot, sides and back, 1.
Oh, man.
Then get the 2. Well, unfortunately, this is the 3. And once one go and that's it.
You
got to
come fire on that one.
Yeah, it looks good though.
So fortunately, it.
Is there going to be a second use of that, Brian, or
I don't know
no?
if you guys can see that. That's
Okay, got it.
Yeah, you'll have to send that to me. We'll superimpose that onto the.
Yeah, so I might use it again on the sides, but it's a little short for the top.
Now, I, on the other hand, am going to run out and get one of those right away.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Looks like it's exactly what I need.
Yeah, it's much easier than like trying to have a clipper. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Although the one thing I would say, if your hair is a little longer, it didn't. So I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe there's half stops, but the fading between the 1, the 2, and the 3 was not good. So I mean, Aaron he didn't say anything, but it was pretty bad the first shot. I mean, there's definitely, you could see where the 1 was, and then you can see where the 2 was, and it's like, okay,
And again,
we got to fix this. We got to fix this up.
for people that don't know the backstory, we're talking about a man who's staying at his home in St. Thomas, where he walks outside and just is engulfed by beauty. He has no need, no want in the world, and yet he's got the $2 haircut. What is happening?
I am a retiree on a fixed budget. I'm sticking with that. So
I love that.
enough about me. So Dave,
I-
you talked about all right, go ahead. I've talked enough. Go ahead, Alex.
So I had a question. So we're talking about like our relationships, your relationships, and how you guys got started. And I know when we started 239, it was Brian and myself and a third partner and Aaron. So the third partner peeled off. Aaron came in. Partner 2.0, bringing all of the skills to the table. When you launched the business, was it just the two of you, and obviously your wife has a significant stake in the business? Have you looked at bringing in partners? How did that go? You've had some lessons learned there. We talk about the fire in the belly and things like that. I'm just wondering, have you had experiences where you've tried to get somebody else in as part of the core team, and it just, it didn't work out for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, early on, like more so in idea stage, the company was, I dabbled in a few things before this, as Jeff had mentioned, and even in the like mobile app space and website space, not AI, but had brought in someone um, who had some experience in getting a mobile app kind of out there in the world. And this is when, mobile apps were really the thing. Everybody was kind of betting on that. Um, and he hung around for a bit. It really just didn't work out. I mean, there wasn't much that happened from the beginning. There was kind of expectations that I went in with, and nothing like came of it. So it was one of those things where, yeah, you part ways and start, the business morphed and changed, and yeah, you just kind of move on from it. But as far as the way the company is now, we often will talk about that, and not bringing in another one of us, but bringing in someone with a technical background or someone um, who wants to, yeah, be a part of this, that's got a bunch of connections that can kind of open doors for us, things like that. But I guess we look at that as more as kind of mentors and advisors. But we do. But if we were going to bring someone on, it would be someone technical, I think, at this point, because Jeff and I have the business sales side kind of rocking and rolling. No, you're good. Anything you need, man, I'm right here.
So that experience, I mean, looking at it now, so you tried to bring somebody in, didn't work out. Don't need to dive into details or names or anything along those lines, but you know, obviously there was a misalignment. How now that you're looking to bring in more technical, or potentially bringing in more technical partners, team members, whatever it is, how has that impacted how you're going to approach that?
It's such an easy, because even what, like a year and a half ago, something like that, we tried to bring in like a different technical team, and that was a total disaster too. And so what we've realized is, or we've learned, and we're not going to make this mistake again, is we're not going to try and vet the people that we shouldn't be vetting. So that's a big piece of advice I would throw out there. Like, I shouldn't have been vetting some kind of somewhat technical guy, co-founder-ish person. Jeff and I shouldn't be vetting technical people nowadays. So yeah, I will. What we do now is we like to get people around us who are experts in what they do and advise us,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the best ways. So
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the advisors and mentors you guys have had along the way?
yeah, I mean, early days it was former IBM folks who were kind of hot at IBM in the 80s and 90s, who were advising us on the technical side and putting us in touch with our current engineers. Um, folks from the fashion industry also kind of. There was this one gal, Michelle Lurch, who was the head of the Fashion Institute up in Tampa, who was instrumental in teaching us everything that we know now about how clothing is made, how it's designed, measured, what the process is, all that, which was super important to us. But now, they're kind of in the background now. But now between the Fusion Point being absorbed by you guys, and Peter Brown was a mentor that we came in contact with early on in those days. He was a former Kurt Salmon executive, which is a huge, basically retail consultant, like one of the biggest in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he was able to open a lot of doors for us in that world. Put us in touch with Kohl's. We had some great meetings there. So and then now, of course, in the 239, under that umbrella, it's a few folks in Jim Van Riper, computer engineer. Big background there. He's been kind of instrumental in putting us in front of some folks. On the technical side, Ashley Flukas runs her own angel investment syndicate up in Jacksonville, I believe. And am I missing somebody?
Not from our mentor standpoint, but there's been other mentors that have helped us out with some smaller things, like even just putting us in touch with some offshore developers who are going to be instrumental for us going forward. So that's Raphael Campo, and did help us out there. This is kind of what Dave's talking about. We don't know what questions to ask a lot of these folks. We know what we need to get done, but we don't know how to vet them if they have the chops. So those are some of the mentor type things that we got out of this that have been really helpful for us, because how would we know how to vet, a team of Pakistani developers without getting some guidance there? So really super helpful.
A little better than just rolling the dice, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
rolled the dice, and we're not good.
You lose money, and it's a stupid thing to do. And so for us, it's putting the right pieces of the puzzle in place, and that's what we've always tried to do too, is make sure, again, just the right people around us. But even some of the cohort members, like Liz, for example, we had a call with her last week. Just she's a robotics engineer and knows certain code bases that our system is running, and so talking to her about maybe doing some kind of consulting with us on the side, or helping us vet maybe our first one or two employees, that kind of thing. So,
And then just for anybody listening that hasn't been following 239 and 239 Labs, so that's Liz Miller with Learn Robotics, learnrobotics.org. Go ahead and check that out if you have any interest in learning a little bit more about how robotics work, or getting your youngsters, high school age students, ready for their career in electronics and robotics. So
She is super sharp. She's great.
I don't know how she does it all.
Is product the kind of the big, like the next, what's the next plateau, or the next, is it building the product out further?
That's it's funny. We've always, I think it is, Brian. Kind of the quick answer is yes, but the product is closer and ready for certain markets, and it's closer than what we've initially always thought. We were just targeting the wrong folks early on, because we thought it would lead us to investments. We were targeting big giant retailers, and they're happy to get in front of us and talk to us about it and even pilot the tech. But when it comes down to how well it functions, I mean, when your technology is literally supposed to replace a human task, it's got to do the things well and correct and accurate and precise. And we're just not ready for them because, again, more data, AI, that sort of thing. But we are ready for e-commerce. We're ready for the resale industry. And so as far as what's next, it's more about us getting the word out there now. So it's a lot of putting a marketing plan in place, continuing to execute with our channel partners, add more channel partners. Jeff's got great ideas around, apparel influencers. There's 1,000,001 of them out there who would be interested in the technology like this and getting it in front of their brands that they rep and all that sort of thing. But yeah, so it's kind of both. It's work on the product always, but getting it out there, because we are first, and we'll be able to capture a lot of the market, we believe, just by moving faster.
Yeah, we adopted that launch early and often kind of a scenario. So we're getting it in front of as many people as we can. But we believe that we can really start selling this to a broader group of folks with just some small tweaks to the tech. It just so happens that even the small tweaks to our tech are still pretty expensive. So we're trying to put it out there and let our customers decide which directions we go, because I think once we have that buy-in, it makes a little bit more sense than us designing something that we think matters. We're letting them decide.
Right.
Yeah.
As
I've always, go ahead.
I was going to say, as Reid Hoffman said, the founder of LinkedIn, you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product you've launched too late. I think I even quoted him in one of our sessions, and so it's one of those things that's kind of hard to balance, right? Like, you want to put something out there that people aren't going to, they're not going to throw up the second they see it, because it's so ugly and it's so crappy. But you also want to get it out there so you can collect that data. So it's a hard thing to balance sometimes, right? So it sounds like you're at that stage where you're just starting to collect all that data.
Jeff's having a lot of good conversations. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
I was just saying, I run into people, early stage startups, and it seems like a lot of different people thinking, well, what's next? Everybody's different, but see some people that actually have a little revenue, and they're so hyper focused either on raising capital or the product. And I'm always a big proponent of the product in terms of solving a problem and being of a certain quality. But I would always, because I'm different. My background was technology, so it took me a long time to get to the point where I brought in the proper sales and marketing. But when I came to the product, essentially I could roll my own, right? So what I always would think, whatever the number is, if you have $5,000, if you can find $5,000 in revenue, then there's probably $50,000 in revenue that you can go get with the same exact product. If you can convince one person it's worthwhile, you probably can convince five. If you can convince five, you probably can convince 50. And then, I think in terms of especially some of the things that we think about a lot, you start getting that revenue, you can pour that revenue back into product development, and try to minimize to some point, the amount of equity that, you end up having to put on the line to go, just completely fund everything. And there's someone, again, we won't name names on everything, but I had somebody who said to me recently, oh, well, if I had your exit, what's another 10%? And I'm like, well, it's always easy to say that from your side of the fence, but once you get it, 10% is 10%, and the bigger the number gets, then the bigger 10% gets. So I think that's always, I think the story about if the product doesn't embarrass you a little bit is probably really accurate. Like once you get a little traction, there's got to be a good balance to say how do we build on that little bit of traction that we got.
Right. If I could just comment on that quickly. So I think in our cohort that you guys participated in, one of the learning lessons that I had was just how little customer research had really been done across the board with a lot of the companies that had participated. How many actual customer interviews did they do before they started building? And to further extend on that kind of thought process, I had a conversation just last week with a first-time entrepreneur, has two jobs, wants to start this endeavor, has no technical background, and wants to put together a marketplace. And so the first step for this entrepreneur was to register their LLC, and their next professed step that they were going to take was to go out and hire a development team. And I said, please don't do that. Definitely have some conversations with some people, and the product that they happen to be building was something that you can build through a simple website. It's an online marketplace, right? It's an online marketplace for listings, and you can definitely build your MVP without a software developer. Right?
True.
You don't need to do that to prove the concept out. I think some people miss out on the fact that your MVP should be something that's duct taped together so that you can get some feedback and make sure that you're heading down the right path.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, especially nowadays, we're lucky where you can write code without knowing code. You can build web apps without knowing how to do any of that stuff. I mean, definitely 10 years ago, that stuff wasn't around. So it's for sure now. But I think for us, like just during the cohort, getting our first 3 customers, recurring customers, was super exciting. I mean, we had done pilots, with big companies, but the recurring is super exciting, and it's scary too because we know the product isn't where it needs to be. But Jeff's having conversations with them. We're staying on top of these guys, and I think that's something, Alex, we learned from you during the whole, being a customer advocate, high or low turnover, low churn, all that. So Jeff's staying on them, and they're, even though we see what they're doing, we see all these photos coming in of all the clothing, and we're like, oh, that one's not very good. That one's not very good. This one's good, but they're still using it. They're excited about it. And so we're like, holy shit, man, this is awesome. And so now we even more so have a clearer path on what next to do for them.
Dude, we're in sync, man. I was just about to say that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
we are just in lockstep over here, Dave and I. It's like inside my mind here.
And then
That's the thing you stressed a lot, that customer service thing. Even though some of the time the tech is failing.
That's actually what we called the session. That customer service thing.
I don't remember titles or anything like that, but I did get a lot out of the content because we're using it. So, but yeah, we've been talking to these folks. Even though the software is failing some of the time that they're using it, the conversations are going super well. These guys are like,
We're gonna mute that part out.
no, you can keep it in. I'm not ashamed anymore. I started out wanting to put like the best product out there that I ever could because it had my name on it and that kind of thing. But now it's different. Now it's just about building those relationships and keeping them, happy.
Yeah,
and it really
Those are your
works.
advocates and your referrals, right?
All these guys are really excited to grow with us. So it's just staying on top of them. And
Great.
So I guess we're in. Well, I just want to make sure. For some reason my camera went off. You guys can still hear me though.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we're kind of turning the corner here into the home stretch. So Jeff, in the beginning, you said you had some things that you were thinking about. So what's on your mind these days? There's a lot going on in the world. What are you thinking about?
I'm thinking of what am I thinking about? I'm really super focused, hyper focused on Sunday evening when the Bills play the Chiefs. It's really occupying a lot of my mind space right now. So I'm watching a ton of YouTube videos and hype videos and all that sort of stuff. So I'm trying to stay prepared.
Oh man.
So that's one big
What
thing.
position are you playing?
I'll be on the bench, but I'll be cheering hard. You got to focus on this kind of thing.
There's two types of people from Philly. There's the ones that would think they want Andy Reid to be successful because of his Philly background. I'm the other type.
Right.
I don't want him to have any success
Terrific.
or any more success. What did he do for me? So I'm definitely rooting for the Bills.
I appreciate that. That's terrific. It's pretty funny. I'm a little bit nuts. Like I literally don't want to hang out with anybody or I want anybody to text me or call me. With a few minutes left in the game against the Colts, one of my friends texted me, "Yeah, it looks like you guys are gonna win this one." I was like, "What? Why would you ever text me that? Time left in the game? Are you out of your mind?"
Yeah. Do you have any of those like pre-game rituals, or do you wear the same pair of socks during the playoffs? Don't shave, like any of those things?
He just gets really angry and doesn't want to talk to anybody. Like he was at my house. What was it, Saturday night?
Well, you guys look together.
No, we don't. Actually, contrary to what you think. He just had one beer the whole time and was there for 5 hours and just sat and watched the TV and didn't look away or anything. Didn't want to talk. And
You sure you want to get into this, man?
no.
So Alex, for many years, what was your mentality coming to work on a Monday morning after an Eagles loss?
So Eagles loss was the worst, but any Philly sports team loss on a Sunday generally meant we had this Monday morning stand-up meeting, which broke every rule of any sort of stand-up meeting. It ran for like an hour and a half, and everybody did not get an equal opportunity to share. And if the Eagles lost, I would wake up, I would check the score, and I would just put the pillow over my head and wonder, like, is this the day? Can I actually asphyxiate myself before I have to go into the office? And we would all sit there quietly, and we would be in the meeting, and Brian would roll in as our fearless leader, and there would be. So did the Eagles win? No, the Eagles didn't win. Okay, let me cross that off. Cross that. We're not talking about this. We're not talking about this. It didn't matter. And Brian, it was like I was out there on the field yesterday, and I didn't catch the ball.
Like you were getting just pillaged, man.
It was.
It would definitely spill over. There's no doubt about it.
Still waiting for my apology card, but I know that it's in the mail.
So I think the one that it was probably before you came on then, the one Super Bowl that we played the Eagles, the New England played the Eagles.
Well, there was two of them.
Oh, you gotta bring it up. Oh, you gotta bring it up, Dave.
Yeah,
I was because like that had to have been an awful day for you, but you weren't there.
Yeah.
So
He was.
05 was right before I started.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that wasn't good. But
I just gotta enter. I'm with Brian here. Like I'm rooting for the Bills just because, I don't want anyone coming close to Brady's like records and if anyone's gonna come close to it, it's Mahomes. Like, the guy's insane. He's really good. So I just hope the Bills cut him off from this one.
But should Brady have those records? You know, if you look at his tainted history of not really playing fair, you know, I'm wondering
man.
if those should really stand.
Mm.
As much as I hate the Patriots, I'm gonna lay all that on Belichick and say I don't care. As much as I really kind of hate Brady, there's no doubt that guy is the GOAT. I mean, it's unbelievable, that guy.
So this is making me lose sleep. So I've extrapolated this out in my mind a couple times. Like, so the Bills could potentially go to the Super Bowl and potentially have to face Tampa, who has Tom Brady as their quarterback. So we got this dude out of the AFC East, and now he plays for Tampa, and we have an opportunity to go to. There could be good things. They could go to Tampa and win against Brady, but if they lose, yeah, that's just a whole.
Is Mahomes playing on Sunday?
They're all speculating that he's
Yeah.
going
Okay.
to go. So
Yeah.
So I always like to plant the seed of something that you'll forget about, but then later you'll go, oh, that's weird. So back to Andy Reid for a second. When you're watching the game and they show him on the sideline, see if you can just answer the question for you. What's going on in that mask? I think he's got a cheeseburger in there. That's my personal guess. But that guy cannot rock the mask.
yeah.
I have not seen.
I don't think
this.
I've seen. I see Arians, man, and his mask looks super small. He looks like he's got a duck mouth or something. But like, I gotta watch that now.
I feel like
So
he's got his microphone thing inside the mask.
Yeah.
Maybe he's.
Well, you're gonna totally forget that we ever talked about this. But then Sunday or Saturday, whenever, what is the game? Sunday?
Sunday.
evening, yeah.
I'm gonna check. Yes, that's awesome.
It'll hit you.
It's also weird seeing these coaches wearing, like, they've got the glasses, then the glasses over the glasses, and then they've got the face shield. They've got like 3 layers of protection for their eyes.
Well,
Yeah.
we're not used to seeing any protection down here in Florida. So
No, that's true.
We're talking about masks. Yeah.
And right.
thanks for the clarification.
How about can we questions? Any questions for us? Something you want to talk about? We didn't talk about.
What did you guys learn from the first cohort that you're gonna do differently?
Well, that is actually I will jump on that. So a couple different things that we're changing up. So on the content side, we are going to bring some of that customer research, customer questionnaire content forward in the overall agenda. So we're going to hit that first, and in a little bit more in depth based on the experience that we had. The other thing that we're a bigger shift that we're making is just engagement on the mentor side. So after talking to the mentors post the first cohort, they're not looking for a lot more interaction, but a regularly scheduled kind of mentor meeting to make sure that they are all communicating what's going on with the individuals in the cohorts. In the cohort, and then utilizing each other's strengths and bringing each other into different conversations. For, again, listeners that aren't familiar with labs, each startup has 2 mentors already. So we try to balance out the expertise and the experience that the startups are getting direct access to. But of course, it's a highly collaborative event. And so they for those that are more technical and aren't necessarily more outgoing, that are reaching out to the other mentors, they ask for us to kind of initiate some of that and utilize that to help define some of the later content and the areas that we need to focus on a little bit more prior to the final pitch. So that's some of the feedback that we've gotten, and I think the other piece is that we will do the final pitch the week prior to the end of the program, so that we have another week where we can kind of review the outcome of that final pitch and close off a little bit more nicely. As you guys know, we were wrapping up right towards the holidays, and I was about to jump on a plane to leave skedaddle out of the country. So
Right.
we're definitely going to shift that as well. That's a great question. Thanks,
That's cool. No, I think
Ryan.
yeah,
Oh,
we're super excited.
and we're going to have our winner of the first cohort present during the first week. That's going to be exciting. Jeff, you ready?
I think did you just realize that
Always
now,
ready,
Jeff?
man.
Ready for prime time. We know Jeff loves speaking in public.
I do. It's my favorite.
He's good at it, just
Once you've almost
wants to throw me under the bus. Yeah. Ryan, why the island you're at out of all the places on Earth?
Well, specifically, why this island versus say another island is so that I'm in St. Thomas, and it's the United States Virgin Islands, and so it's basically the United States, and we have an airport that you can get a direct flight from Miami. So a lot of the other islands in the Virgin Islands would be a little more of a trek. So that was a big factor there, and I don't know. I've seen temperatures have dipped into the 40s in Florida, and we're just not what we signed up for. So yeah, island life. I mean, Aaron was just here, spent the weekend. It's different, but it's good.
It is very different. That island. I was there, and after like a couple days, I was like looking at condos online. I'm like, I gotta get here. Yeah.
Nice.
Aaron, how's anything different coming down the pipe, like regarding investments and startups and that sort of thing that you're seeing? We've been one thing specifically focused on is like the ESG aspect of our business, and looking at investors potentially there.
Yeah, anything different. I think the biggest difference that the whole VC landscape has seen is just an increase in valuations, especially on the West Coast. I think it's because really the access to capital has increased significantly. You have what are called special purpose, SPACs, which are letting people basically IPO, right, pretty easily, and get access to capital really, really easily. This isn't something that we were used to seeing like years ago, and so in return, the entrepreneurs are starting to ask for higher valuations, whether they're justified or not. There are all sorts of different ways to value a company, but at the end of the day, it's what the market's willing to pay and invest at. So that's a tough thing to. It really narrows down your pipeline of startups that you can invest in, because a lot of VCs have a specific stage that they want to invest in and a specific valuation that they won't really go over. So that's the big thing. But so that's a good thing too for entrepreneurs like yourself. There's lots of capital out there, and we're seeing some really, really innovative founders that over COVID was a really tough time for a lot of people, but it was also a really good time for people to hunker down and really be heads down, in their office, working nonstop on product and getting their companies up off the ground. So I think it was a really good year for technology, and I think we're going to see a lot of really unique things come from this time.
I think I would add that I think for institutional investors, I think the trend has continued away from just everything's a great idea, let's just throw money at everything. Revenue is king. So when they see revenue and they see growth, I think your chances of getting funding increase significantly.
Right.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think it's about showing momentum, and because you could have revenue, right? But if your revenue is not growing, significantly year over year, month over month, even, in some cases, it's just you have a really tough story to tell to investors, because investors are seeing tons of companies that are seeing that acceleration. So it's about kind of getting as much momentum in a short period of time and being able to tell that story to investors. That's, I think, really key right now, because there are a lot of startups that have the revenue, but they don't have year over year growth and a strong story to tell that justifies an investment.
Right.
Yeah, I think $10,000 in revenue this year and $100,000 next year with a really strong IP and a compelling story is, for my money, I'd much rather be in that position than $1 million in revenue and then 1.1 in revenue and then 1.2 in revenue. It just doesn't. It maybe be the valuations are just not. You're going to be in a problem area when that starts to happen. So there's so many people looking for money. That's the opportunity, and it's also the kind of the problem.
And luckily for you guys, the space you're in, retail, I mean, they're going through a tough time. They need to, and a lot of these retailers need to adopt technology to improve margins and stay competitive. And so you guys are in an interesting space right now.
That's what we say.
Yeah.
It was a tough year,
I
but
was just gonna say, I think your technology, a strategic. You just seem like so perfect for, you get the right strategic partner and you just rocket ship.
Yeah.
yeah, they're looking. They're all looking. It was a weird year, but it was a good year, to kind of be doing what we're doing. So
I'm sure they needed to get through some things, right? There's a lot of stuff on their plates, a lot of forecasting and meetings about strategy, and so I think 2021 will be probably a year where they've had those meetings, they start looking at adopting the technology or making the actual changes, right, and taking action. So I think 2021 will be a great year for you guys. I'm excited to watch you guys grow, and we're glad to have been a small part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We appreciate the opportunity.
No doubt.
So, before we wrap up, how can our growing audience, audio, video, wherever, we're going to put this out in Super Bowl commercials, you guys are going to be in the middle of the halftime show. How can these listeners potentially help you? How can they support Tailored and taking Tailored to the next level? Introductions, bank accounts to deposit cash into,
Venmo.
What do you need?
I think just to continue to support the economies that they're in, just circular fashion has become like a real kind of, important aspect of what we do, improving sustainability, the effect on the planet. So, if you got clothes to get rid of, don't put them in the landfill, sell them online, donate them. You're all participating in the betterment of the environment and the economy, man, because that stuff is booming. So, and you might find a nice one-off piece that no one else is wearing, maybe a nice, jersey from some team you like. Alex could be out there from some old-timey player, but those are the important things for us because that keeps things moving, keeps the industry growing. But yeah, referrals. We always take referrals if you know anybody who owns a retail company or in the apparel world. That as well. We like talking to people.
Yeah, resale is cool. Vintage, shop vintage. It's my eyes are completely open to a whole new group of stuff out there, man. It's really, really neat. Upcycle is another thing like we've been hearing a lot about, where if you have something old, you can kind of send it in and get it redone. These are some of the companies we're having a lot of success with. So it's really cool. Keep the stuff out of the landfills, man. Let's try to help a little.
So
Clothing is pollutive, man.
If I hear what you're saying, you're supporting the upcycling and the pre-worn garments, if you will. But really, for you to grow the business, what you are looking for is to get into some of those particular retailers, right? Um, and that will help you to spend your reach, get more customer feedback, and then hopefully get some more referrals.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're B2B, so we sell to those guys, and they need automation. They need to do things faster, and they need to sell more product. There's a ton of product out there to sell. A lot of it doesn't get sold, so that's where we help.
Great. All right. Does anybody else have anything to add before we wrap up here? Our first inaugural episode of the 239 Caffeinated podcast.
Just thank you guys for participating. It's great to learn a little more about the story, and really, as always, just looking forward to seeing what's next.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you
Brian.
all.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And with that, we can't have a podcast without an air horn. So the air horn is in. We appreciate your time, guys. Thank you so much for coming by. And I'm going to then hit us with the outro video, and that will be a wrap.